Okay. You're going to love this. In this episode, I'm going to give you basically the keys to the kingdom. I'm going to share with you how I came about productizing my services and how I did that, specifically down to exactly what those things are, plus a prompt to show you how to do it in your business. Productization is where you create a very unique profile for your business. So when you are in front of a prospect and you're pitching yourself, not only are you not wasting time, but you're getting compensated. You are giving that prospect the opportunity to work with you on a small engagement, kind of like a monkey's paw. The monkey's paw is in with big ships. They got the big, heavy ropes or chains that will connect them to a dock. So in order to get that big, heavy chain over to the dock worker has a rope tied to the end of the chain, and that rope at the end of it has a knot or some sort of thing that can be easily grabbed onto. So that rope is something a human hand can handle. So what they'll do is they'll throw them the monkey's paw, and what it'll do is it'll allow them to connect that chain to the dock without having to literally throw a big chain or a giant rope. And that may be a really crappy way to describe it, but that's what I know. So if I'm wrong in the way I describe that, let me know. But a monkey's paw is a great way for you to get started with a client that leads into a deeper engagement. And I actually deploy this technique with my clients because a lot of them are in similar consulting type businesses and are service-based delivery people. They deliver a service, an experience based on their knowledge and conversation and some tactical deliverable. And in this episode, I walk you through how I did it for my creative agency. And these things that I created, these products, are still products I use today, I rely on, and they deliver incredible results for my clients. So it was a brilliant move and definitely transformed my business. I don't waste time putting proposals together that I never win, which was my life before. I'd spend all this time putting a proposal together and would end up not getting it. Not every time, but it was disappointing to invest all that time and not win a project with a new client. And so I transformed all of that. And it was a great thing to do. And I talk about it in this episode. So I hope you get something out of this. And please make sure you read the book I recommend, which I have a link to in the show notes on my site at mysolopreneurlife.com. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Solopreneur Life. I'm Terry Pappy, your gracious host, and I am so glad you're here. I have a wonderful episode for you. Sit back, relax, and let's have some real talk about what it is to be a solopreneur. In the last episode, I talked about how Better3, the current model and name of my business, came about. That was more based on observations I made around client behavior, the clients I was particularly dealing with, as well as some of the things that I was consistently seeing in a pattern that they were doing. They didn't know their customer, their communications were inconsistent, not so professional, definitely not updated. And then they really didn't have a strategy or a plan around how they were going to either gain more wallet share, build that relationship so they got really good referrals, which is today, a referral-based business for solopreneurs is probably the most predominant way that solopreneurs can grow their business, especially as consultants. And when you're looking at being a professional coach as a solopreneur, it's super important to differentiate through niching. making sure that you're very specific about what type of coaching you do, because believe me, you throw a stick and you'll hit a coach, just like you'll throw a stick and you'll hit a real realtor. I laugh about that a lot because I live in Florida, and it seems like, every person you talk to is a realtor or was one at some point. And in that choice for me to discover and create a model that helped me add some structure to the business offerings that I had was so important for me to start the differentiation journey. Because at the time, I was basically freelancing. I was charging by the hour. People were hiring me for website design, copywriting, logo design, whatever, tactical deliverable they were looking for. Like, oh, I need help in marketing, so I'm going to go ahead and hire a web designer. I need a website. That is where the problem lies for many people. If your ideal client, your customer, is already along, like halfway along, making a decision about what type of provider they need, you're not helping them make the right decision. Now, what I mean by that is kind of the example I just gave. Oh, I've got a crappy website, it needs updating. I'll hire a web designer. Oh, my logo's outdated or I don't have one. I'm going to hire a logo designer. So they go to Fiverr or they go to so-and-so or they ask a friend, do you know somebody who can do that? Or if they happen to know somebody, they'll go to that person and say, hey, can you build me a logo or build me a website, design me a logo? Yes, you build one, you design another. I guess you build them both. Anyway, the customer, when they take charge of deciding how they want the solution, in other words, they are already solutioning the problem that they have, that's an opportunity for you to, as a solopreneur, identify the process that they go through before they even reach out to you. So if there is a customer that's doing a certain thing and you can insert yourself ahead of that, then you can become a much more strategic marketer versus someone who's basically a knee-jerk tactical person who gets paid by the hour and so on. Now, this obviously is specific to my industry, my business, because I make stuff. I don't just advise clients around coaching. I actually make things. I do copywriting. I design logos. I creative direct photo shoots, qualitative research. There's a ton of different things that I do because I love it all. To me, it's all facets of communications that is the heart and soul of building any business, whether you're communicating to your employee workforce, whether you're communicating to prospective clients that you may engage in the future or existing clients. This episode is going to really be beneficial to you in taking a look at your business and finding out how you can further differentiate yourself beyond just the model that I talked about last time, which will get you a good way down the road. All right. And remember, this whole first season, I'm sharing about my journey, the things I did, which is really to inspire you on how you can look at your business and find similar ways to make improvements, enhancements. So not only can you make more money at what you do, but more easily bring on clients and just stay healthy as a business. My examples are by no means the only way to go. They're not prescriptive from the standpoint of like, this is how you should do it. Because believe me, the way I've built my business has been very kind of like spastic and all over the place. But I've always tried to be strategic. I've always tried to find ways to not necessarily compete, but position myself different. For me to just go ahead and, oh, sure, yeah, I can build you a website, or I can write copy, or I can do all these tactical things. And then it's like one and done. What benefit do they have other than coming back and saying, hey, could you build me another logo? Or could you design a print piece for me? That's what I wanted to get out of. And it was becoming taxing. It was becoming boring, quite frankly. I was really bored. And I was interested in my clients' businesses. I I was interested in them from almost like a psychological perspective. Like, what is their mindset? How do they look at marketing? How do they look at serving their clients? What is their opinions around the things going on in their industry, about technology, about all these things? All of those things really interested me. I think that, combined with not being perceived as just another tactician, drove me to find a better solution. And it's really cool because I had this itch, this yearning, and I'm sure this has happened to you. Maybe you haven't really identified it or recognized it, but when you have that kind of internal, like I said, itch, it's not really, it's like a yearning, right? Where you're like, I want to do better. I want to make what I'm doing more sophisticated, more elevated, so I can work with a more elevated, more sophisticated client. I happened to come across a book that I will highly, highly recommend, and the author is an absolute sweetheart, is Pia Silva. And I will link to this in my show notes page. I've had her twice as a guest on my last show, and I will definitely be inviting her again. Although she's so big right now, I don't know if she'll even answer my call, but let's hope she does, because she's amazing. She wrote a book called Badass Your Brand. And, there's a million marketing / branding books out there, courses, experts that are out there teaching you how to do all these things, which is great. We're all upskilling, learning, etc. I read this book. It was transformative for my business. And Pia, thank you again for putting this book out. And to this day, she's still getting kudos for that publication. I don't think she realized how incredible it was. But what it did for me was it helped me distinguish how I was presenting my business offerings and what I did in a way that totally took me out of comparison, totally decommoditized who I was and what I was doing, and allowed me to take my expertise and identify where I was bringing the best and highest value, getting the best results for my clients, etc. So I'd been working for about 10 years, just kind of like feeling my way around, and, obviously had the Better 3 transformation, which really helped a lot. But when I came across her book, I was introduced to the idea of productization. And this is not necessarily anything new, but when you're a solopreneur in a service-based business, it's very easy to get categorized, to get dropped in a bucket and looked upon. Oh, you do this. Okay, you're a web designer. Oh, you're that, right? So to get away from that labeling, you create basically products out of your services. And what Pia showed me in her book was how to get paid to propose. I'll give you an example. In a consulting business in particular, but in many other businesses, when we are asked to provide a proposal or respond to an RFP or put something together, some sort of estimate, typically what we do is we scope out the job. We list out a bunch of things that we're going to do as part of the scope, and then we put a price. Base it on hours, base it on what we feel is appropriate. I like to base it on the results it'll bring, because then I know that I have to do certain things in order to bring about results. But there are dependencies that the client also has to do in order to help me bring about results for them. In the process of putting a proposal together, if you're a solopreneur and you've done this, it can be quite time consuming. It may require a little research. It may require some assumptions that you have to back up. And putting together a proposal takes time. So if you have a proposal template and it's got your branding and it has here's the situation, almost like a case study model, where you have here's the current situation, here's how we're going to fix it, and then here's the desired outcome. Whether you're spending a couple of hours, a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks, if it's extensive, you're investing a lot of time and you are not getting paid, because this is a proposal. It's an estimate. It's something your client has asked you for. Why? Because they want to see, A, do you understand the scope of the project? And B, how much is it going to cost? So if they're asking for something that basically is going to tell them what it's going to cost them to work with you, you're already losing that opportunity. Because what will happen is that client will be like, oh, thank you for that proposal. Really appreciate it. Going to look over it. I'll get back to you. Yeah, those are the words we really don't like hearing, is I'll get back to you, right? And so what they end up doing is either it sits, either it gets pushed aside because they've already made their decision who they're going with, or it gets compared to other providers, other contractors, other consultants, other solopreneurs, other maybe agencies that they're getting similar proposals from. They're completely empowered in this situation. The providers are disempowered because we're waiting for them to make a decision. We're also relying on them to be able to make an educated comparison of all the other proposals that they're getting. Many times they'll go with the cheapest. A lot of times they'll go with maybe if it's been a referral, so they have some relationship in there, kind of got some skin in the game, so they want to use that person. We don't really know what that situation is. What I took a look at was, how can I turn this into something that I'm going to be paid for? And that's what I got out of that book, how to create a proposal that you can actually turn into a product. What I did was I came up with products. And thanks to Pia, some encouragement from my boyfriend who said, you would be surprised what certain organizations will pay for. I took a look at the work I did, and I always did a very thorough intake with my clients when I first started working with them, especially if they wanted something a little more on the larger scope. They wanted branding, they wanted the communications, they wanted sales tools, they wanted a whole corporate ID. I would spend a lot of time understanding the business, learning about their customer, and trying to figure out what was the best way to communicate, to market to create leads, all of those aspects that most of us look for when we're working with a provider who can help us grow our business. As I was doing this, I took it beyond just Terry doing hourly freelance creative, because I was doing so much coaching and advising and strategic guidance for my clients. Because again, as I said in the last episode, they're so close to their own stuff, they don't realize what they're missing and what they're maybe not doing effectively. I went through the process of looking at the stages of the work that I did. The first thing was always that intake. I got a lot of information. I'd have a couple phone calls with my clients. Okay, so tell me about who you work with, what you guys do, what problems you solve, blah, blah, blah. And I'm writing all this down. Now, granted, this is, for me, this is pre-productization, for me to actually put together an estimate for them, right? So I'm learning, I'm getting upskilled, I'm figuring out, oh, okay, I'm getting ideas. This is how I can help them. And oh, do they really need that? And so I'm thinking of all these things as I'm having these conversations. If I got the opportunity to talk to other people in their company or maybe a customer or two, then that was an added bonus. But most of the time it was just the main point of contact I was working with that I would do this intake with. And that could take a couple of hours, not just to get the information, but for me to actually think about it, process it, brainstorm on a whiteboard, maybe look at some examples, do a little research, sometimes a lot of research online for competitors. And then that would go into the estimate. So I put the estimate in front of them and they'd be like, okay, they're comparing it to hourly people. They're comparing it to some other proposals. It was just, like I said, totally disempowering. All the power was with the prospect. What I changed was I made that process, those things that I was doing, and I turned them into a product. And that product is something that transformed my business. It was where I was probably spending the most time, not getting paid for at the time, yet I was creating something that held the most value, that was basically a strategy. So I took a look at those efforts that I was doing initially just to win business. And I was like, how can I turn this into something that the client could actually value and pay for and use either on their own, hire their own creative person, or hire me. I positioned it, and this was the brilliant part. I told you I was going to give you all my little secrets, okay? So I positioned it so it made sense for them to continue working with me. So not only was it a product that I actually was doing the same stuff that I did before, but I obviously made it much more sophisticated and in depth, but it favored their continuing to work with me. So I got paid to propose, gave them value, got to extract a ton of information that I normally would have done without being paid. And 9 times out of 10, they would continue working with me because of the way I priced it. So I priced it as a flat fee. I haven't changed that price since I started doing it, which was 8 years ago or whatever. And if they continue to work with me, so in other words, in this proposal, this product, I lay a lot of things out, a lot. It's on my website. It's called the KISS Marketing Map. So if you want to learn more about what that is, just go over to tpappy.com and look under my creative services. And there's a video where I talk about the KISS Marketing Map and what it does. And this actually is a really powerful document. It's a positioning document, it's a branding document, and it's also productization, it includes an implementation plan. So how many clients come to you knowing how to implement what they're asking you to do, right? So I completely turned the power around to more equal footing where I came in as the expert and they were there being served, and I was continuously selling result. So instead of selling a service where they could basically compare me to some other hourly rate, I actually came in providing a result, an outcome that they were desiring, because it allowed me to position it that way. So in this KISS marketing map, the way I positioned the pricing was it was a flat fee, and if they did continue to work with me, in other words, on all the implementation steps, that I would take that fee and I would apply it to the implementation project, whether that was one project, whether it was a multi-phase project. And so that's where I actually would do the work, build the website, set up the lead generation flow, everything, all of the things communications wise that would make their business run well, improve their customer experience, have better communications, and to really understand their customers more. Because sometimes I would have, all right, I recommend doing a qualitative research so you can find these things out. And it really transformed my business, because instead of going in and saying, okay, here's my estimate, that's my hourly rate, this is what I think it'll cost and how long it'll take, and then they react to that. So the ball's in their court, right? And I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs going, oh, I wonder if they'll hire me, kind of thing. Well, that changed when I did this particular model. And so I ended up creating 3 products that fit pretty much everything I was already doing, but because I productized them, basically took whatever it was and put a handle on it and made it into a product that they could walk down the street with, right? Much more easy to buy a product which was always rooted in a result, okay? And so when I went in to have a conversation with a prospect, I would explain, this is how I work. And so the power was always with me because I was educating them. This is how I work, and this is why I basically run my business this way, because it drives results, it drives outcomes, and it does. It helps me be better organized. It helps my client understand more about the outcome, because as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, your prospects are already going to come to you with a solution in mind. They're solutioning before they even have a conversation with you, because that's how they get to you. They're solutioning. Oh, I need a coach. Oh, so-and-so was using this person. I think they can help me too. So they're already making that decision and that rationalization in their mind. They have these preconceived notions in their brain already before they even get to you. And so you have to kind of tamp that down and say, okay, great. Well, this is how I work, and this is why it works that way. So having my 3 products, which essentially is the same stuff I was already doing, but because I packaged them a certain way, allowed me to come in as a different expert, as someone who was aligned with outcome that my clients wanted. And it also provided really nice flexibility for me to adapt. Like, for example, the KISS marketing map was relatively a template. However, I do adapt it. Like, in fact, the one that I did not too long ago, like a couple months ago, I added a human design element to it, which I'd never done before. And I think, is it my next episode? I think my next episode, I'm going to talk about how human design completely transformed. It's like I keep coming across all these things that I'm like, yeah, transform my business, man. Oh my goodness. What are you going to do, right? But that's the great thing about being a solopreneur is you have the opportunity to shift and change and grow and learn things and try different things and have that agile approach to how you are running your business. And I love that about being a solopreneur. It's kind of wacky and wonderful, but when it brings home results for your clients, it's like a win-win all around. Anyway, where the heck was I? See, I go off on these tangents. It's all your fault. You get me going, I just get lost. Sorry about that. I have my KISS marketing map, the strategy. I had what I call the business of you generator. And it's just a fancy product name for all the implementation. That's where I build stuff, I make stuff, I write copy, everything comes together. Build them their corporate ID, set up a lead generation system. And the whole time I'm doing this, I'm also educating the client. And I have a ton of YouTube videos on all this stuff, by the way. And then the third, because remember, it's better 3, so I've got to have 3 things, right? Everything's about 3, 3, 3. I don't know why, but I just do. That's my second product. It's one thing to have a strategy, an intro product that being paid to propose. And then it's another to actually roll up your sleeves and get the work done. But then what? What's left? How do you continue to get more wallet share, like I talked in the last episode, to continue that relationship, to deepen the relationship so that customer or client of yours really gets to understand where you're coming from, who you are, your heart, your soul, how you've been able to help them transform their business and what they're doing. And then how do you want to continue to serve them? I was looking at past clients where I had started deploying these things, and I'm like, what's a way that I could continue to work with these clients and help them really identify what it is that they're great at, that they need support on as they go through time. It's one thing to build a bunch of stuff and then send them on their way. Okay, bye, have a nice day. And occasionally I'll get a client that's pretty much like one and done from that perspective. However, those clients always inevitably come back to me with new problems. And because I helped them solve problems in the past, they know I'm a reliable resource. My third product is a form of ongoing support, but it's one thing to turn myself into a coach, essentially like a marketing coach or a business development coach, but it's another to make it tactical. And that's what I did. Because all along, I'm working in the world of tactics, of deliverables, of things that help them grow their business. And so I looked at that third one and I said, I'm going to call it tactical guidance. Essentially, it's a form of business coaching, but I get in the weeds, meaning I will look at their business proposals. I will look at their posts. I will maybe do a little copywriting. I will do some strategic realignment for them. And these things enable us to work together in much more results-oriented way versus just me blathering on as a coach in more of a traditional coaching model. So I don't say it's really coaching. I say it's kind of like coaching a little bit, but it's not. It's better than coaching. No offense to the coaches out there. Those are the 3 products that I have. I've got the KISS marketing map, the business of you generator, which is where everything gets implemented. And obviously the investment they made with the KISS marketing map, if they continue to work with me on that second product, I throw that money in there and then estimate basically on a project basis what I believe it'll take me to do it, how long it'll take, what's involved, and I list everything out like a traditional estimate or proposal, because it's essentially what's already in the KISS marketing map. I can literally copy the implementation plan, maybe put a little more detail and throw that in an estimate. I go from spending hours putting a proposal together to minutes, honestly. And then the third, I sell on an ongoing basis. Sometimes I'll charge a client X dollars a month for one touch base, two touch, however frequently they need support ongoing. And it mostly takes the shape of business development. I find that is more of an ongoing need that I can help my clients with, because everything we've built is about setting them up for business development so they can serve their clients, they can encourage referrals, and they can garner new clients. That's where that third ongoing support / maintenance product comes in. So you have an intro product, you have the bulk of the meat and potatoes of the service that you provide, and then you have an ongoing maintenance contract. And if you look at your engagements in that way, it almost is like it becomes a subscription type of a service, which is a really important part of business these days, because it's money that you can expect on a monthly basis, and it's also relationships that you can continue to nurture. So that's how I laid out my products. I took what I was already doing, I compartmentalized them, made them results focused, gave them their own little brand, productized them, and then that's how I presented myself whenever I talked to a client. Because the first engagement had high value and low cost, just a few $1,000s, they're like, okay, I can try this out. I'm going to get this deliverable. It's going to give me a lot of insight. And they get a chance to see what it's like to work with me. And of course, they always fall in love with Terry Pappy. And they want to continue working with me because I'm so awesome. This is what happens when you put a microphone in front of me. I get goofy. But it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Right? So it encourages them to continue working with you on two levels. One, they get the experience for a small engagement, if you will. And then they're like, okay, well, if I'm going to get some money, like a credit toward a bigger engagement with Terry, I'm going to go for it. And another thing I do that I learned from my clients, because many of them aren't necessarily flush in cash, but they are making money, they are doing well in their business. And so I set up an installment plan for them. So I almost become like a fractional CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, for a lot of my clients. And that works really good because of how much I invest in getting to know the client, how much I invest in giving a crap versus just executing a tactic. And to this day, every client that I have had, that I've done a decent amount of work with, I could pick up the phone and call them and say, how's it going? And I do, actually. I like staying in touch with my clients. And they'll pick up the phone and they'll be like, hey, Terry, how's it going? Yeah, what are you doing? So I have a great relationship with all my clients because I've been able to not just help them, but they've gotten to know me, I've gotten to know them, and it's more of a relationship. It's almost like, we're friends in a weird way, if that's even a category you could use to label it. So for the prompt, what I'd love for you to do is see if this productization, first of all, get Pia's book. Okay, I'm going to link to it. And it's called Badass Your Brand. You can get it on Amazon. And I'll also put links to the recordings of the podcast episodes that I had with her in my last show, Simplify and Multiply. She's just so much fun. And so get her book, read her book. Okay. And if you've already read her book, great. You're already halfway there. Make a list of the things you do for your clients from beginning to end. What are you doing for free? Like, in other words, how are you going about getting the business? That's a product right there, I'll tell you. Okay, so you can beef that up, make it something you can charge for. And it doesn't need to be a lot. I charge several $1,000s because I spend a lot of time putting mine together. And I've also automated it. It's helped make it more efficient for me on my end. And see where you can create a product that leads into more business with that particular client. That is so key right there. That will transform your business. That's what it did for me. And then look at how you want to continue working with your clients. Even if it doesn't make sense in your business, I guarantee you will be able to find a way to stay up in their grill and continue to provide value. I mean, there's a million different things you could do to continue to provide value. That's the prompt. Take a look at your business, make an outline, whiteboard it out, or make a list of all the things that you're doing for your client. Make them results-based, turn them into products, price them out, make sure that they feed each other, that it makes logical order in a linear fashion. Test it out on a couple new clients. You will not be commoditized. You will come across as fresh and different, and you'll be able to present yourself in a more powerful stance where you're not giving all the power away to the prospect, where you have to sit around and wait for them to get back to you. I really care about my clients' businesses. So I hope you do the same and go ahead and do that prompt, and I guarantee you will find ways to productize your services, especially if you're in a service-based business like a consultant, speaker, trainer, expert, etc., and turn your business around and never be commoditized again. You won't have to compete with anybody because you'll be a one of a kind. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Well, I know you're disappointed, but that's it for this episode. Listen, the great news is there's another one coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you do the prompt if this episode had a prompt, and you get that homework done because you're going to be a better solopreneur. How's that for a maternal finger shaking at you? Hey, listen, thanks so much for being here, for giving me time of your day, and, for taking it on. So if you want to learn more and stay connected with me, just head on over to mysolopreneurlife.com. Thanks a bunch. See you soon. That was pretty good. I think I'll keep that one.